Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Worldwide Willis. This podcast is brought to you by the LMG Podcast Network. And today we got a lot to talk about, folks. It's a lot going on in pro wrestling, and it's a lot of beautiful things going on. So we'll definitely break everything down. So I first want to talk about a little bit of news. So we had an amazing announcement, an announcement that if you've been listening to the podcast that I have, asked of WWE for probably 5 years now, to be honest, a mid card women's championship on the main roster. Now we've seen different things going. We've seen that the NXT brand has had the women's North American championship. It's been off to a great success. I think it's only been there for about a little under a year, maybe. That's been really successful, been really helpful for some of the elite, the mass and depth of talent that they have in NXT in the women's division. We have similar, not as much, but similar depth in the women's main roster women's division, and we're seeing a lot of great stuff come out of that division. So I think it's a great time to reveal what they revealed this past Friday. And Nick Aldis on SmackDown revealed that there is now a women's U.S. championship. This will be the mid card title for the women's division. It sounds like it will be sort of like the tag team championships, where it'll kind of go from. It doesn't really have a brand. It's not brand exclusive, so it won't just be on Raw. It won't just be on SmackDown. It'll kind of go back in between, which is great. Which I think it's needed, right? This champion. If this is supposed to be the U.S. title, obviously there's no women's intercontinental title, but it sounds like they want to treat this as the intercontinental title that we have on the men's side, right? So they want the intercontinental champion to literally be the workhorse. They want the women's U.S. championship to be a workhorse person who can wrestle each and every night, put on a great match no matter who they're with. So I think having it not exclusive to a brand is great because they can go back and forth. And honestly, they can drop down to NXT every now and again, have a nice match, or have women from NXT pop up and compete for the title. So let's talk about it. So a lot of people are obviously super exciting news. There really hasn't been any pushback towards it. But there have been a lot of people asking who they really didn't give us details on how this champion will be crowned, like if there's going to be a tournament, battle royal, or qualifier matches or anything like that. They basically just said, "Hey, look out for this new championship. They'll probably bring it around. I wonder if they'll wait till Royal Rumble. I'm not quite sure, but either way, I'm hoping it's a tournament style. But either way, I'm excited for it. I think they're smart. They're not gonna they're gonna keep it pretty exciting and keep the momentum up. So a lot of people have been saying Chelsea Green should be the first inaugural champion. Now, I'm 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 not against that. I see why people like it. She's been doing great work. She's obviously a star. She's hilarious. She's entertaining. She gives you, she's just that person, whether she's in the ring or in backstage, whatever, in vignettes and videos, social media. She's hilarious. She's entertaining. I get that. I totally understand that. And I can see why people are pushing for her to get the title. I wouldn't be mad at it if she got the title at all. I think she deserved it. I think her comeback has been one of the greatest, honestly, one of the greatest signings in the last 10 to 15 years, to be honest. When she came back, I want to say 2021, 22, I can't remember. She's been amazing ever since, right? She left for a little bit, came back, and has been amazing. Has been probably one of the more entertaining women we have in the entire pro wrestling, for that matter. I can see why people are picking her. I can see that. Now, me personally, I'm a little more. And again, this title has not been given out yet, so we don't know the layout of this title. Is this title sort of like the U.S. title right now, where it's given to the entertainer in L.A. Knight rather than the workhorse in Andrade or some other people, right? The Intercontinental title is for the workhorse, the up and coming future main eventer. Right now, the U.S. title is for the draw, the entertainer, things of that nature, right? So if they go that route with the U.S. women's title, that's cool, that's great. I'm hoping they go more with a stud in the ring who's just newer to the roster or young and just kind of want to test them out with the belt and then for future plans, obviously with the main belt. So I'm hoping it's either Tiffany Stratton. I think she can obviously compete for the world championship right now, but I do think putting a belt on her, sort of like what they did with Gunther, right? With Gunther, you knew he was going to be a champion. It was a matter of time to when he was going to be the world champion. With Tiffany, it's the same thing, but I think in this case, I think it's good to give her a belt to kind of carry it with, right? Everybody's interested in Tiffany. She's amazing in the ring. She's a great character. She has a great look, all those things, right? Great for merch, all that stuff. Fans like her, all that. I think having Tiffany cash in, not on the main title, but cash in on whoever. So I think it would be really good and really funny if we had Chelsea Green maybe have a tournament, right? Have Chelsea Green pull off like 4 or 5 just crazy upsets, just upsets that she has no business winning, but she pulls it off, right? And she just goes on this run where you're like, where everybody she's just building up one win after another, and you're like, oh shit, how's she gonna beat her? How's she gonna beat her? How's she gonna beat and just keep going. And then once she gets to the final, she wins it. She has this big moment. It's great. Then Tiffany Stratton's music hits. Tiffany Stratton comes out there, cashes in on her, and takes the belt off her hands. I think that's the smart way to go because obviously Chelsea Green fans would be disappointed, but you can't like that fits Chelsea Green, right? Having a comedic ending to where it ends up with her taking the fall is kind of Chelsea Green's character, right? That's just how she is. So I think having her lose it in a cash in a very, you can make it even in a funny way to where she lost it. I think it's great because Tiffany Stratton doesn't lose any seriousness, any value or anything by cashing in on Chelsea Green. I think everybody knows Tiffany can go and she's a future world champion. I just think for this title, you need a workhorse. You need somebody who can really put butts in seats, but also is amazing in the ring. Chelsea's really good. It's just she's sort of, and she's even said it. She's more of a fan of the diva era, right? She likes the diva era, and she even said she would love to have a divas women's championship. And I think uh, that's great and all, but we're in a different era now. So we need somebody who can hold it down, right? This is a brand new belt. We don't have to prove anything, but sometimes when something's brand new, you kind of gotta make it known like this is why we created this because of this specific reason. And right now, women's wrestling is cooking. It had a wrestling boom in the late 2010s, and it's continuing to grow and expand, and we have some of the best talent in the world. Let's showcase this every week with this champion, and I think you can do that with Tiffany Stratton. Now, another option is Lyra Valkyria. I think she also gives you a great option as far as a wrestler, right? She's not the most entertaining, but she's amazing in the ring. She has a great look. She has a great theme song. All the things you need, right? And you don't. She isn't ready for a world championship run, right? She isn't ready to be in there with the Becky Lynch's, the Biancas, the top of the top. She isn't ready for that yet. Technically, she's ready. Like in the ring wise, she's ready. It's just overall she didn't have the full package quite yet. She just got to the roster probably a year ago or so. So I think putting her as a US champion would be great for her. I think she'd hold it down. I think she'd put on banger of matches every week and just build a really cool, stretch of matches that I think would get her over even more with the crowd. So I honestly I don't think they can go wrong here unless they try to throw this on a Bailey, a Naomi, a Mishin. If they try to go a very safe, and Mishin isn't really safe, but very like safe Naomi, live, like if they try to go a safe route, that's the wrong route. Give it to somebody who needs this mid card title. Don't give it to Bianca just to establish it as an important title. You don't have to do that. You can have whoever gets the title then get challenged by Bianca, then get challenged by Rhea Ripley, then get challenged by some really established talent to give it a little more highlights. Obviously, it'll be on television every week if her challenger's a top tier lady in the division. Another reason I'm really excited about this is because I think this is going to help kind of what we've seen WWE do in the last couple of years is they have NXT talent come up to the main roster. So we saw Lash Legend, Jakari Jackson come up for the women's tag team match, which is great. We've seen many women come up, right? Even Lyra Valkyria popped up a couple times. Tiffany, when she was in NXT, popped up. Roxanne. Like we've had different women pop up, right? I think this is great because, like, think if you had a tournament and Stephanie Vacar was in it. Think if you had Julia was in it, or you know, plenty of different women in it. Like Last Legend, like you could have some really big talent and have great matches and build excitement for not only the current brand and the current title, but build excitement for NXT. And I mean, like a lot of people I know, they don't watch NXT. Now, I think they should. I think NXT is cooking at an elite level right now, but some people just don't have the time to watch NXT on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, right? But I do think using this as an exposure to those people, that's great. Like you can't lose there, right? So I just think continue have a really big, like comprehensive tournament. I don't want it to be just random qualifier matches. No, I want it to be a tournament style where we have to keep up with it and all this stuff. And I just think it'd be really cool to add an NXT element to it to where you really get exposed to new talent. And honestly, you'll have better matches for it, right? NXT talent is like really good. Jada Parker, like think if Jada Parker popped up in one of these matches, like she would immediately be loved by the crowd. You know what I mean? So I just think it's a good time for this. It's a perfect time for this title. You are overloaded. You're honestly too stacked on the NXT Women's division. Like you were stacked. So why not pop up some of those women and have them compete for a title on the main roster and get them exposure while also accomplishing the goal of establishing this main roster title, this new one, and giving it to somebody who's a workhorse and a star in the same sense. So I think it should be Tiffany Stratton, but I am not mad if it's Chelsea. I'm not mad if it's Lyra. As long as they don't go safe and just try to put it on a top tier talent and kind of try to put it over, I'm cool with that. Make the challengers the top tier guys, but make sure this person is really built by going against top tier talent. You don't necessarily have to put it on someone safe. So really excited about this news. I think everybody was. It was a great announcement. Caught. I think we were sort of expecting WWE to move this way just because we had the women's North American title. That was kind of the kind of experimenting just to see how that went. It's went really well, so you could see them moving to the next steps, adding it to the main roster. Okay, now let's talk about what's going on recently. On SmackDown and Raw, we saw that in SmackDown actually we saw that Sammy's back, man. He's officially a Bloodline member, right? We there was a little back and forth. Roman and him hadn't quite settled things yet, and Solo was still trying to, pluck Sammy from their side over to his, and there was a little gray area there. But we got a confirmation at the end of SmackDown. It was great. You got Sammy kicking Solo, everybody throwing up the ones. You know what I mean? Roman throwing up the ones, kind of confirming that Sammy is in the Bloodline again. So yeah, really fun. It's exciting. Definitely looking forward to Survivor Series. This is kind of, as I've talked about before, this is kind of what I wanted. Now I do want to talk about one caveat. Now, if anybody knows me, Survivor Series is one of my favorite PLEs of the year. I think it's a beautiful PLE. I think it's a great setup. I think it was either Pat Patterson or Dusty Rhodes who came up with the Survivor Series sort of setup or match, right? The traditional 5-on-5. I'm actually happy they're doing 5-on-5 just because it is the traditional. Now it is War Games, so that adds an element to it, which is great. I think War Games is always good, especially if it has a great storyline behind it. But my only issue right now is WWE has me a little scared. So the thing I do like let's talk about what I do like about the fifth member thing. I think it's cool that we're going to sort of have a NWO WCW type rivalry going on, or we'll have a WWE, WWF versus the Alliance type of situation. Right. And for those that remember early 2000s, the Alliance, ECW, WCW versus WWF, where people were trying to pick and choose, trying to grab people, free agents, essentially. It'd be like, hey, come over here. This is why I want you. Or other team be like, hey, come over here. This is why I want you. I think it's a good race of arms, like race at arms of we saw Sammy going like to Seth Rollins being like, hey man, like I'm in the OG bloodline again. Like things are different this time, you know what I mean? And I think you'd be a great member of our team as a fifth member. And Sammy's like, hell no. But then Seth, later on the night, Solo approaches him. Is like, hey man, you don't like Roman? I don't like Roman. Why not just join our crew? You know what I mean? Obviously, Seth rejects that offer, but it's cool to see each of these people, different superstars. This is what I hope they continue to do each night. Is different superstars are approached about joining this huge mega battle, and each person who has had history with the bloodline kind of rejects or gives their reason for rejecting, and then eventually, obviously, someone takes them up on their offer. Um, that's what I like about it. They create storyline. It's really entertaining. The only thing I don't like about it is I'm a little worried that they're going to pigeonhole. They're going to make this fifth member on both sides isn't going to make sense. It's going to feel forced. It's going to feel like really, I don't know. It's going to feel like when we look 5 years from now, look at a poster on 5 versus 5, you're going to go, oh, okay, you got Roman, you got the Usos, of course, you got Sammy. Oh, and then we got Cody Rhodes. What the hell is Cody Rhodes doing in here? Or, you know what I mean? Like anybody random, you know what I mean? It's not going to make sense. And that's my problem. This is one of the greatest storylines of all time. And honestly, this Survivor Series match is a coming to a head of one of the greatest storylines of all time, right? Some people might lessen it than that, but I see it as it's that big of a deal. You have the OG bloodline that started this entire thing, who introduced Solo, who Solo then took over in Roman's absence and created his own more deadlier, more fierce, more dangerous bloodline version. And now they're going up against each other. Two tribes are going against each other. This is huge. This is a huge storyline. So what I don't want is them pigeonholing a Cody Rhodes or a Kevin Owens or just random person into this feud when it's like, that's not needed. We don't need that. I want story. I don't need a fifth member who really has nothing to do with any of this. Now, I think there are a few. It's hard because I can't think of every fifth option at this time that would make sense. But I am giving Triple H and others the benefit of the doubt that they're gonna figure out a way to make this fifth member make sense. I'm praying they know that they're in touch enough to know, hey, we can't just throw Cody Rhodes in this, bro. Like it looks crazy. Now, Cody has had history with all these people, and Cody just teamed up with Roman. All these different things. However, it just doesn't with Cody, all the nonsense he's dealing with. It just with Kevin Owens and now Randy's out, and Cody has to get his revenge, has to get revenge for Randy being out. Like you would just think those two would have a match at Survivor Series rather than pigeonholing Cody into this Survivor Series match. That's what my hope, anyways. Another thought is honestly, the Bloodline WWE did just sign another family member of the Bloodline, like literal family member. He's like 7 feet tall. He's cool, he's solid. He's not a Jacob Fatu level signing, but he's cool. Some people are thinking maybe that's him, but I honestly think he's going to NXT and they're going to do him like they did Solo. Like start in NXT, get your momentum. If you develop faster, great. Add you to the Bloodline. If not, cool, do your own thing down there. So again, I'm a little nervous about this fifth member thing, but I think if done really well, it could potentially enhance the story rather than hurt the story. Again, if they do it to where every corner you turn, you're getting pitched by Jay or Sammy or Jimmy, about joining their crew, or and then you turn the next corner and Solo and Jacob Fatu and all them are trying to pitch you on joining their crew, right? Like I think that's a cool thing that keeps the story interwoven through the rest of what's going on the roster. So yeah, kind of a higher storyline, but still interwoven between the smaller storylines essentially. So yeah, I'm excited for that. All right, let's talk about Damian Priest is going to be challenging Gunther at Survivor Series in a one-on-one match. I think that'll be very good. Every time they get in the ring, it's a really good match. We kind of have a Damian Priest who's now kind of done with the whole, well, pretty much done with the whole Judgment Day rivalry, right? He's obviously faced Dom recently for a qualifier match for number one contender. However, it didn't seem like that was interwoven in the Judgment Day thing. That was just kind of two people who wanted to go against Gunther or go for the title, had to go against each other to decide number one contender. So this is just fully Damian Priest being himself. I think he's doing a really good job as a babyface. He's doing a really good job with the crowd. Crowd is loving him. He's obviously really good in the ring, and I think just him and Gunther have really good chemistry. So I think they're gonna have a really good match, and I think the story they're telling is really good too. Gunther is kind of doubting himself now that he lost to Cody Rhodes, right? Clean, he lost to Cody clean, which is still unfathomable to me, but whatever. Uh, he lost clean, and now they're digging into the psychology of that, right? If you just lost clean and you were this big undefeatable monster, um, then yeah, now you're gonna have a little bit of doubts. And Damien's trying to dig into that, trying to make him feel a little insecure. And so I like that. I like the whole storyline we're having where it's sort of low key racism involved, but not really. You know what I mean? Like Gunther's basically calling Damien a street rat and all these other things. It's not racism. Like if we're not soft here. Like we understand you can say that without it being, but there is an added element to it that makes it a little more reality, which is good for the storyline, right? Like Damien's talking about how his childhood and struggling and even when he was older, Damian Priest is pretty old, like his age. I want to say he's like in the mid 40s. I want to say, and so and it took him a while to get on. Like he got to NXT when he was older. Took a while in NXT and then finally came up to the main roster. But like, so he kind of talked about that. Like he's been struggling to get here, and Gunther, who was Walter at the time, kind of honestly was rolled the red carpet out for him when he was in NXT. Like they was like, please come. They were like NXT back then was like, please Gunther, please come. Like he told them, he was like, I'm not coming to the States. Like he was over in the UK killing it, NXT UK, and he's like, yo, I'll wrestle over here during the pandemic, but I am not coming to the United States. And they threw him a bag, and my boy showed up in Florida immediately. You know, my boy ain't left yet. So, um, that's a two different life situations, life stories, right? Coming from two different perspectives. A guy who had the carpet rolled out for him from the point he started wrestling at a high level, and another guy who literally was a forgotten signing in NXT and ended up finding his way to one of the biggest stories in WWE with the Judgment Day and that crew and everything. So, and challenging for world titles and becoming the world champion. So, and having big moments with Bad Bunny and all that stuff. So it's a great like opposite to track type of situation. So I really like that they're digging into that. And it's not surface level storytelling, but like they're really digging into both people's backgrounds. So I like it. I'm looking forward to that match. I think that could potentially be the best match of Survivor Series. And have high expectations for Survivor Series. So that should tell you that. Um, all right, we have Brunson Reed and Seth Rollins. We're going up against each other next week on Raw. And obviously we know that's gonna be a banger. Their match at the last pay-per-view at Crown Jewel was really good. So yeah, I'm really excited for that one. I think Brunson Reed and Seth, like, and I kind of want to talk about the Seth Rollins effect. Seth really does a great job, and he said this. He was like, "I take pride in being able to work with anybody. I take pride in being able to bring the best out of everybody I work with," and he's done that. He's always done that. No matter who he's with. When he was the first world champion of this new belt, like every time he was wrestling somebody, he brought out a great match out of everybody. Jay Uso brought dudes to a level that you didn't know they could get to. Seth, it was because of Seth effect, right? Now, I gotta give credit to the people he's going up against; they're great too, but it's not a coincidence they're having some of their best matches with Seth Rollins, and I think that's the case for Brunson Reed. I've always loved Brunson. I loved him when he was in NXT. I've said that a million times, but I think now he's getting the shine and being treated like a monster. And honestly, Brunson Reed can go, man. Like the dude can move. Now, some people don't like his character. I've talked to some of my friends who don't like his character. I think it's perfect, right? He's not doing too much. He's not going too much outside of himself. He's not being too, you know what I mean? Like he's literally said, "I'm doing this because I want to be the champ, and I've done it different ways, and I haven't had any progress. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to destroy people and see how far it's going to get me." And it's gotten him pretty far so far, right? He was just on a PLE. He might even, I'm assuming that might even be the main event on Raw coming up. We'll see, but he's a draw now, right? We all want to see what is Brunson Reed going to do this week type of situation. So I'm really excited for that one. That should be a good one. On this past episode of SmackDown, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over, but yeah, we had Kevin Owens attacking Randy Orton, right? They obviously have beef due to many different things with Cody and all these different things, but they go up against each other at their match at Crown Jewel. Now, it was basically called off because they just started beating each other up everywhere, but it was a really entertaining segment, right? It was basically a brawl. And they basically continued that on SmackDown, but we had an amazing moment where Kevin Owens pile drived Randy Orton. Now, for those that don't know, the pile driver has been outlawed in the WWE for like 10, 15 years now. Actually, yeah, it might even be more, to be honest. Because I remember either it was 2012 or 2013 when CM Punk and John Cena did the pile driver, and Vince went nuts because it was forbidden to do even then. Just John and CM Punk just decided to do it and was like, hey, if they're mad at us, they're mad at us, right? It's better to ask for forgiveness type of situation. And that was 2012, right? Ish. So now in 2024, we know it's banned, but obviously Triple H is a little different, right? If it enhances the story, he'll give it a second thought. And nowadays you can do a pile driver. If you know what you're doing, you can do it. As we know at AEW, they do it literally every match. They do a pile driver. They do it like a super kick almost. But you can do it to where you can easily make the other person feel safe. Where back in the day, it was like literally like over in Japan, they will spike your head into that ground, sir. Like the top of your head might go through that ring. That's how hard they're gonna pile drive it. Where here, they figured out a way to do it to where it's not bad. And especially the way Kevin did it, he kind of leaned back more to where like Randy's head never even touched the ground, right? It just, he basically just did a front flip. Um, and so, but the effect was the effect, right? It gave the effect of a pile driver supposed to give. And it gave you the effect that, the super kick used to give you, or the the Jake the Snake DDT used to give you, or the Goldberg spear used to give you when it wasn't oversaturated and it was an elite move that only certain people did in big time moments. And it's a protected move, what we call a protected move. And kind of like RKO. RKO used to be protected, right? Now everybody does RKO. Carmelo Hayes, Cody Rhodes, like plenty of people do it now. But it was a protected move at one time. And pile driver is protected and literally sanctioned not to do. And so for them to pull it out, it was so shocking that it even had even bigger effect, right? No one was expecting him to hit him with the pile driver. They thought he was going to hit him with a stunner. But the fact that he hit him with a pile driver in the middle of the ring during a brawl is crazy in the WWE today. So that's why it affected so many people and had the effect that they wanted it to. It went viral. It was amazing. It was an amazing moment. So, obviously Randy's now hurt. His neck is broken, obviously kayfabe, but he had to get carted off and he'll be out indefinitely is what they said. So my guess is that Cody will now, because Randy Orton is Cody's like literal mentor. So I'm thinking that the best way to do it, obviously, the simple way to do it is to have Cody fight for his friend who's now down and injured and try to take revenge for him and challenge KO to a match, right? So I'm hoping that's what we get is we get a KO. Cody Rhodes. I know they wrestled pretty recently. That was a great match. We can run it back again. But you'll never be like, man, how the hell does Kevin Owens deserve a title shot? Like you'll never say that, right? So it's fine if they have another match, and it takes Cody out of the bloodline situation, which I think is good. I think him being in this whole triangle between Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, I think is good for him, right? I now I will say there's a lot of people out there, Cody's boring, but I'm like, oh, you niggas always think the champion's boring. Like if it isn't Cody, if it isn't Randy, even Roman Reigns, y'all said was boring at a time. You were like, man, should we get somebody else to have the title other than Roman? He's not here all the time. You know what I mean? Like these are the people who just complain about anything, right? You don't understand the big picture of the business. You can't just be like, you know, I'm not feeling Cody this week. He should just lose. It's like, well, dog, they're literally mapping out WrestleMania. They can't have him lose at bad blood just because you're not feeling him at the moment. Like, come on. Like, I just wish wrestling fans were a little more mature and understand this is a business. You can't have this is one of the best baby faces we've had since John Cena at his heyday. Like, we can't have this man just losing just because he has a week that we're not as entertained versus the rest. Like, come on, grow up a little bit, like understand how the business works, right? If you have a big head honcho moneymaker, he loses at WrestleMania or else, right? Like he should only lose that title at WrestleMania. That's it. Now, other champs, sure, you can have a Damian Priest lose his title at SummerSlam. You can have a random person lose their title, right? That's fine. Yeah, but we're in a great age where we have elite level talent. They should not be losing to just anybody, to just any pay per view, right? So just I don't know. Just sometimes I'm like, do you guys understand how business works? Sometimes I question it. We got to again. I talk about this all the time. Wrestling fans love being in their feelings, but then 7 months down the line, they're like, "Oh, well, WWE did make the right decision. Oh, they WWE didn't make the right decision not having Roman lose to Sami Zayn in Toronto at a elimination chamber. Oh, that was a good decision. I thought they should have had him lost, but it's like, dude, like just thinking with feelings never works in wrestling. It just doesn't. It doesn't work in anything really, especially in a business. Um, but anyways, let's talk about Xavier Woods and this New Day situation. Um, Obviously, we have some appreciation for the New Day as their anniversary of being 10 years old as a faction. Obviously, Big E was not there. Big E isn't around because obviously his neck injury. But I'm really liking the friction between the two. Now, I will say, we got to pull the trigger. We got to pull the trigger. This rivalry has been happening for damn near 2 months now, even if not more. Pull the trigger. Have him hit Kofi with a chair, put him through a table. I don't care what you got to do. He needs to turn already. It doesn't need to be this drawn out. Like you know me, I love long form storytelling, but this is very clear what's going to happen here. Like one's got one like, and I don't even blame Xavier. Xavier should be pissed at Kofi. Xavier should probably pop him with a chair. Absolutely. But let's make it happen. Like we don't need to draw this thing out this much. Like we know what it is. Kofi, Xavier does not feel appreciated. He feels like Kofi doesn't look at him as highly as he looks at others. And he thinks he's just running the show when Xavier's been around doing his thing for a long time and held it down when Kofi was out. Right. And like, especially for Big E, I'm sure Xavier's like, bro, we're like, you tried to replace Big E. Like, you know what I mean? And with the dude who has suspect character, like I would bring that up too. So yeah, man, I love the story, but let's just pull the trigger. Let's just do it. All right. Let's just do it and we can have a match. Now, I'm hoping they're not dragging this out to make it a potential. Now, I do want to see this on a PLE level. I want them to have matches on a PLE. I do. but we shouldn't drag this out past Royal Rumble. Like this should be wrapped up by Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? So let's do that. All right, let's talk about the women's tag division. You know how I've been talking about it for weeks now. This tag division is the best women's tag division we've ever had in WWE by far. By far. I think the best women's tag champions ever was Bayley and Sasha during the COVID era. However, Jade and Bianca are quickly rising. Now, I will say, they ain't got a ton of competition. However, there's competition there, and they are rising past them quickly. I love that they're basically being workhorses. They're on SmackDown wrestling for the titles. They're on Raw. Sometimes they're on NXT. Right? I love that. That's great. I've talked about that. But I will say, I think WWE has done a great job of making these tag titles matter. Right? You got Raquel and Liv. That makes sense because they're part of the same faction. You got Tiffany and Nia going for the titles. That makes sense. They've been a crew for a couple months now, right? Rocking with each other. They made a business partnership. Cool, bet. Right? Like you have, EO and Kairi Sane. We know them. They're in a faction together. Not saying just because you're in a faction means you should be challenging for a belt, but it's starting to look like an actual tag team division and not just hodgepodge. So throw two people together. They have mid matches and they're not on television for 2 weeks. Like now it's like tag matches are on television every week. And one thing, people are hating, but you gotta admit, Bianca and Jade have put on great matches week after week after week after week, no matter who they're going against. Versus, you know what I mean? Now I will say the Crown Jewel match wasn't the greatest, but honestly, it was way too many people in that match, right? Like we should have had a number one contender. It should have been 2 versus 2 and had a great match. They put too many tag people in there, but I get why they did it. They want to give exposure to all these teams just because of the great work they've been doing. I get it. Totally get it. Not a big deal. But I think this tag, that shows, the fact that it was on the PLE shows how good this division is, because trust me, if they can find a reason not to put these belts on the PLE, they will, right? There's just hasn't had a ton of success with those titles. But again, people were hating on Bianca and Jade having titles. Even I was hating. I said they shouldn't have lost to Isla Dawn and Fire. Like I said, those two should have kept the belts. But I think this was the right decision. Got to give WWE their due. Like Jade is getting a lot better in the ring. We all know what Bianca is. Some of us don't, Patrick. But most of us know the type of talent she is in the ring. She's having great matches out there. And is showcasing some women that don't always get showcased, right? And I just think they're having one of the hottest runs this tag team belt and division has ever had. Again, like I'm excited for matches now with the women's tag division, which was not the case. And the fact that they're like interwoven storylines. Again, like we saw on Monday, like we see like interferences by people who actually make sense. It isn't just random tag team showing up and you're like, what the hell? Why do y'all care about interfering in this match? Like you don't have beef with any of these people. But now it's like, oh, they got real beef, right? Like Liv is the champ. Well, Nia is the champ. They just went against each other. So yeah, they're probably going to still be beefing, and they're probably going to interrupt each other's tag team opportunities, right? Same thing with Jade and them. They want to be the champ, so they're going to interfere with their other people's championship opportunities. So I think again, and giving NXT women a shot at it is really dope, and giving them opportunity. So women's tag division, I want to shout out to you guys. You guys have been doing amazing work for the last month or two. And just want to shout you out because I don't feel like a lot of people are going to say it. But again, this is the best women's tag team run we've ever seen. All right, finishing up. I love what I'm seeing from Tommaso Ciampa. The more sadistic, the more ruthless style. That's who Tommaso Ciampa is. We're starting to get a NXT version of Tommaso Ciampa, black and gold NXT level Tommaso Ciampa. Like if we can get that, oh my gosh, WWE has a gem on their hands if we can get that. This whole like company line, do whatever is asked of them, Tommaso, nah. We all know Tommaso. Tommaso Ciampa is crazy. If you've watched NXT version of Tommaso, he's crazy, dog. Especially you put a belt in his hand, Big Goldie, that man goes wild. The man like literally hugs his title belt. The entire he gave it a name, Big Goldie. Like he don't play about his titles, and he doesn't play about pursuing titles. Like right now, he's going off on people to try to get those tag titles. So I'm loving it. I'm loving that Champa is taking it to another level, and Gargano is sort of like, "Whoa, man! Like, chill out, my guy. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you being this ruthless? Like, why are we on this type of time?" And Tommaso's like, "No, it's time to step it up. Like, we got to do whatever it takes to get these belts or to reach the next level." So I love that like dichotomy there because those two have had some of the greatest tag matches together in NXT, and honestly, one of the greatest rivalries ever. Gargano and Ciampa in NXT. So we could potentially get that, or we could just get Ciampa going on his own and really taking it to a next level. Because I think he can be that single star again. He just has to be treated like he's a heel. The dude's a heel, right? We don't have to. He doesn't have to act like he's a cool heel that you like, but he's still a heel, right? And so I'm looking forward to Tommaso really to be able to get in his bag and do his thing. Just wanted to do a quick AEW check in. I feel like AEW is trending up. However, the business isn't right. We know the views are still declining, and obviously their attendance is trash. It's been trash for like the last 2 years. But as far as like wrestling quality, it's getting better. It's definitely better. I think the Hurt Syndicate with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin and MVP, I think that's a big ad. I think that gives you a legitimate faction now. I think they have other factions, but I'm not as interested in those. House of Black, otherwise, like I love House of Black, but we know for some reason or another, them dudes is relegated to the bench, and I don't get it. I still don't understand. Like they just had Malachi Black lose to who did Malachi Black lose to? Adam Cole. And he did the fade to black and he kicked out. Adam Cole kicked out of the fade to black. That should tell you it's a wrap. Malachi did, like, there was rumors that Malachi is going to retire or leave AEW. Malachi, he came on social media, said that's not true. He's still going to stay at AEW. I think that man's waiting out till his contracts is over. Tony Khan's being real petty with like, if you have a contract and you were hurt during that contract, he holds that time you were hurt against you, basically. And I think Malachi's been hurt quite a bit, so I think he got a little bit so he can leave. But man, I don't know what House of Black did to Tony Khan, but man, I wish they could take it back because they are amazing, but they never get the shine they deserve. They're always in trios or tag, but like I think Malachi hadn't had a singles match before that since like 2021. Like, that's how sad it is, right? And so, again, I want House of Black get off the bench. Like they need to get some minutes, right? But I am happy. I know Patrick probably hates this, but I think AEW's putting their Orange Cassidy has put AEW on his back, and I think that's a good thing. They need new stars. They need homebred stars. Obviously, MJF is homebred. Like he was built there, but I think he brings a certain level of eyes to it. That's great. But I think Orange Cassidy can be your star of the future and really great baby face because they just don't have that many great baby faces right now. Like they have a ton of heels. They don't have a Cody Rhodes. They don't have, you know what I mean, LA Knight. They don't have Orange Cassidy was their LA Knight for a while there. But they just don't have great baby faces, right? They don't have Sami Zayn's. They don't have those guys. So they need an Orange Cassidy at this moment. And he's been putting him on his back. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Again, I like AEW. I think it's a great alternative to WWE. I want it to stick around. However, there are times where I'm like, bro, there's talent right there. You just don't use it because you have way too many people on your roster. You have way too many television shows. You need to break it down and be more efficient. Like, you know what I mean? Quality over quantity. And for some reason, Tony Khan doesn't understand that. But all right, folks, we went through everything. Hit me up with your thoughts. What you think as far as Survivor Series? Who you think should be the fifth member? What do you think about the women's U.S. title? What do you think about the tag division? What do you think about the pile driver? Was it dope to you? As dope as it was to me? All those things. Hit me up. You can definitely shout me out on the Facebook group. You can hit me up on Instagram at League of Melanated Gentlemen Podcast, or on Twitter. Hit us up, man. Like, we definitely love to talk to you guys, and join our Facebook group. Like, our Facebook group, League of Melanated Gentlemen Podcast. Like, we have a lot of great stuff. We talk about wrestling. We talk about everything there, right? We have a good time, and it's a place where you can feel safe to be a nerd. You know what I mean? So shout me out, hit me up, and we can definitely chop it up. But until next time, we out. Yeah.